Hey, everybody. So it's your time to share, ask questions, and process. You can unmute yourself or type in. Go ahead and fire away.
And keep it to the relationship healing class to start with here.
Yeah.
I think everybody's relationships are just good. There's no questions.
Okay. All right. So how about we just start right off the bat with doing a little work on relationships in general.
Oh, go ahead, Ralph, first.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, Greg. I've been doing the part about communicating with myself,
Uh-huh.
and I was specifically addressing how would student Ralph, integrate, this new learning process as opposed to the old
Sure.
Ralph, which struggled.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to say that that's turned out to be kind of it's like I feel like it's helping.
Oh, good.
Not like I've seen some major super shift at this point,
Right.
but I definitely, it's like I have more confidence going into a learning situation rather than going into it with some trepidation.
Right, right. And I'm curious, like, what's the inner dialogue been? I mean, you don't have to give me details, but has it been the same or has there been a shift in the dialogue?
I would say that the inner dialogue is just generally more supportive, more believing that as I go into this and as I read this, it's gonna sink in and I'll have a grasp on what's being presented.
Nice. The reason I ask, because especially like with what you're talking about, like learning, like if you look at the dialogue, because that is kind of a way of like inner communication. When it's coming from like the intuitive part of the mind, it's almost like we need to do this, we need to do that, go left, go right. It's like real, like you're processing in the moment. You know how like when you're exercising or you're playing an instrument, you're not sitting there thinking about all the details. It's just like you get a little bit of dialogue, but it's just like real quick, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
when it's like stuck in the intellect, it's like the chatter of like, well, what are people going to say if I do this? What about this? Like, why do I do this? Like, it's the it's the chatty inner dialogue.
Mhm.
And you know the better inner dialogue, especially for what you're talking about, is going to be more of the intuitive mind. And like being able to tap into it, like it sounds like what's already happening for you, it'll start shifting like the intellectual dialogue in your mind. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Where um kind of like what you were saying, you feel like a little bit more confident, or not as much self-judgment is in some of the things, or not as much questioning. And I can remember when I was young that it would be, I mean, this is a very simple version of it, but it'd be like, well, I should go right, but I'd start questioning things and I'd talk myself into going left because there was some weird reason or justification, or everybody else is going right. Why should I go right? There was just this like weird, like little conversation. And, when you're focusing on yourself, you'll notice that almost like the two sides of the brain. There'll be a little bit of the more chatty part, and then there's the part where it's the intuitive mind that's just like go left, go right, go straight, stop. Like, it's just really to the point.
Mhm.
And what happens over a period of time is they almost like bond and become the same thing. Even if you catch yourself being chatty, you can go like, enough of that. And like it'll just kind of float away. But for the longest time, uh, for myself, I would say I was my own worst critic. You know,
Mhm.
I could judge myself like nobody's business. I used to have family members who would do things, and I was like, "That's all you could come up with? I could come up with 10 more things. Like that's ridiculous. Come on, step
Yeah.
up your game." I would joke back with them, but like it was kind of true.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and like I would say, that's a great one to work. Like that's a really great one for anybody to work. And so I would keep working that.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting today. One of the things that occurred for me was, where did this come from? And I looked back in grade school and
Yeah,
being
yeah,
being criticized for something and
yeah,
going, oh,
of
well,
course.
I
Yeah.
guess I can't. But then it was like, okay, so little Ralph didn't have the tools that big Ralph has got available.
Right. And
So,
school, people's opinions, people's
mhm,
attitudes, bad things that have happened. And some of it is also, the intellect will get an idea in the head, and then when reality doesn't support that idea in the head, then it's like, well, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I was not perceptive when I was young. And part of that is just youth. Part of that is
Mhm,
just you're young.
yeah.
And so, if you grew up in an environment that didn't like nurture or kind of foster that potential of letting you explore who you are and develop your abilities and like have, okay, you're going to make some mistakes, but you're going to learn from them, then the dialogue can get really brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, great class. Thank you.
Good, good. I'm glad you're enjoying. Yeah. Keep me posted on that. I'd be curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we do have a couple people who didn't join us over the weekend, so I did post the relationship healing PDF in the chat
Sure.
for you guys
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So you'd have that.
So I say we do a little, was there any questions? Okay. So let's go ahead and pull out if you have Ambret, Benehi, either Cypress or Blue Cypress, Galbanum, Rose, or from the org programming class, the relationship support. Let's pull that out. And let's have you do this. Just reflect on some of the relationships in your life. How do they feel? Where do they stand? Do you feel uneasy or do you feel good? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel peaceful? Let that all go. Your awareness is on the left side of your body, side of your face and neck, your left shoulder, your left ribs, left hip, down the outer leg to the left ankle. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the whole left side of your body. You're doing nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the left side of your body. Here, we're addressing the aspect of the aura that directly impacts relationships, the ability to connect, the ability to bond, your ability to interact in a very general way. Remember, the aura is the energetic mold or blueprint that physicalizes things into the body, the emotions, and the mind. And so if you have negative energy or negative patterns in the aura, then they eventually physicalize, and here would manifest as difficulties in relationships, difficulties in interacting, difficulties in bonding. You're doing nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then move your awareness to the front side of your body, your face and throat, your chest, your abdomen, the pelvis, down the fronts of your legs, all the way down to the tops of your feet. And remember, we're anchoring our mind on the body, but we're working the aura. We're just directing our awareness to this part of the aura. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Now your awareness is on the right side of the body. Right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder and ribs, your right hip, and down the outer leg to the right outer ankle. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then the back side of your body. Back of your head, neck, your upper and mid back, your low back, your hips, and the backs of your legs, all the way down to your heels. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then just be still. You know, you could say within you is many different faces, many different faces. And one of the goal for healing and meditation and mystical practices is not so much the practicing of a technique, but the waking up of something inside of you. And here we're trying to wake up some of those other faces, get them to interact a little bit more. And so let's do a little practice still with this same oil that you're using. Your awareness is on your heart. Your eyes are closed. Move your awareness in towards your spine, going a little deeper within the heart. Maintain your awareness on where you're at in the heart and begin to inhale that same oil you're using. Take some nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Now, with your awareness there, reflect on yourself as you interact with your friends. Not so much your friends, but just reflect on you. How you act, how you feel, how you behave, how happy you are, or maybe how disappointed you are. Whatever it is. Now reflect on you when you're doing a task or when you're at work, when you're taking care of business, getting a job done. Think about yourself when you're vulnerable, when you're the new person in a situation, when you're putting yourself out there, when you've done some creative process that you're presenting to the world or to your peers. Just times when you're vulnerable. Think of yourself when you have your time of inner reflection, and you have your hopes, your dreams. You're kind of visualizing your goals. As you're reflecting on this part of yourself, continue to take nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then when you're dealing with a difficulty, thing you have to do, thing you don't want to do, but you have to. Reflect on that part of yourself. Think of yourself when you have a great success, when something goes really well. Think of yourself when things fall apart, when things don't go well. How do you judge yourself? See the you that you would like to be, whatever that looks like. And then just let go. Let go of it all. Just let go. And with that same oil, your awareness is on the left side of your body, from the side of your head down to the outer ankle. Everywhere in between on the left side. Take nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the front side of your body. From your face down the whole front side of your body to the tops of your feet. The right side of your body, the side of your face and neck, shoulder, all the way down the right side of your body to the right outer ankle. And the back side of your body, the whole back side, back of your head, all the way down to your heels. And then pause and let go. Just let it incubate. Your eyes are closed. Just let go. Anybody want to share experiences or ask questions? If not, we'll do a little bit more, but if you want to share or ask, we can process it. Unmute yourself or type in.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Hey, Barbara.
Thank you for this. This is going to sound a little silly, I think, but when we were going through the different faces, and I'm somebody who strives to be exact with language. So when this came up, I found myself laughing a little bit, but I need a way to phrase it. What came up was, I don't want to operate out of my ego, but then where does it go? Like how do I talk about the ego when I want to be operating out of my higher self and not my ego? Is it surrendering? Is it taking a backseat? Can you give me some language to hold that?
Language. Well, the ego would be like more the intellect. You know, when you shift into the intuition, you're really tapping into the higher self. And so really the idea of looking at those different faces is like also like kind of acknowledging them, you know, because there's some that we really like, and then there's some like, you stay over there, like you know. And you know, at first it's just kind of like an interaction or an acceptance, but as you start bringing all those different pieces together, like that starts to stimulate a kind of like a kind of oneness or a kind of interaction, you know, where the separation between these pieces is more in the lower mind or the intellect. Really, they're just different facets of the same thing, and the ability to perceive that and interact with that is more an intuition. And so I would look at it more as like how you would do like meditation, where you would look at imagery rather than like the dialogue. The dialogue is going to be there. So I would not try to suppress it or anything, but as you look at the different selves, there's going to be little things that pop up. But it's almost like how you do in meditation, where like the words kind of come up, or there's like a little judgment or a little interaction or a little support even. And you know, I would almost do it from the point of view of like letting thoughts arise and then just observing it. And as you do that, like you could say that there's like obstacles in between these different pieces of yourself, and the obstacles is literally intellect. And so by looking at these different pieces, you're presenting the obstacle to intuition and saying, okay, these different pieces of myself, resolve this, like overcome this obstacle, work through this obstacle, rather than just standing and staring, like work through whatever this is. And it kind of brings it together as a more interactive like kind of unit, if that makes sense.
It does. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So here's also the flip side of it. Like anytime you want to work the ego, you work the arms and the legs. Like you know, like if you're wanting to do practices where you diminish the ego, refine the ego, release, you know, whatever it is, the more you work the arms and legs, because really in mystical practices, the ego is actually in the bone marrow. And you know, so a lot of the things that get stimulated in our mind, and even how we perceive ourselves, are tied to karmic imagery and karmas. And so by going through and working the arms and legs, you're kind of breaking up the pieces of material that would form like the ego or the negative aspects, and you're making space for one, greater levels of presence, but two, um you're increasing the soul contact or soul interaction, and really our personality, like you said, like the parts of the ego or coming from the ego is I mean everybody does it, but the more then you can go, shh, he's talking, like, or she's talking, whatever the like the intuition is, like the ability to like kind of calm it down, because we're not going to make it go away, but like when we kind of calm it down over a period of time, it gets more refined, and it kind of learns by example. Like it doesn't have the experience, because anything from ego and intellect is always based on past experiences, conditioning, and things like that. And so you're giving it experiences of the higher faculty, and then over a period of time, it's processing that just like the past and the conditioning and the things we memorized and all those kinds of things. And over a period of time, it's like getting an upgrade in your operating system in your computer. It's like it got a little fancier, it got a little bit more refined, it got a little quieter. Because really, when you're able to do that, the mind will keep calming down and calming down and calming down. And as you do that, the cognitive processes keep getting like stronger. Like you're able to perceive and like kind of process the things that you're seeing. And so um you know it's more than just the arms and legs, but that's a good place to really work. It's also, just anywhere where there's bone marrow is where that happens. But a lot of times you just kind of focus on the arms and legs. When you look at the potential for dissociation, which is stepping away from intuition and really more down in not even the lower mind, but in instinctive responses, energetically, that is super congested arms and legs, and like a very low vibration energy in the arms and legs. And so that's why when you're reflecting on the different pieces, there are going to be things that float up. There is going to be like thoughts that kind of arise in your mind. Like you go, oh, this is my happy self. And then you go to the part where, maybe something negative happens, and, you sit with it and you go, okay, I'm just going to be quiet. But like things still arise. And, most time intellect tries to put like a lid on it. You know what I mean? And the intuition will clean that up, but it has to be like presented to the intuitive mind. And so even when you're looking at those negative things, I mean, it seems like a really simple practice, but it is like a way to stimulate that like bubbling up so that intuition can come in and do its janitorial thing where it goes, okay, let's just clean this all up. And then you two guys, you get along. Like it kind of does stuff like that. Yeah.
Thank you. That was also helpful.
Yeah. Good, good.
And go ahead, Robert, then Laura.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Greg. I mentioned something in chat to Sam. I'm good at yawning, almost a pro. Uh, but that's sort of the funny side of it. There's this realization today that I had. I'm working on a computer that's been quite challenging, and I was cursing and some of my old habits from decades ago before I started any healing work.
Mhm.
And at some point, intuition set in and said, yeah, just go away. And I grabbed a few oils, sat down and smelled some oils, did a pattern I needed to do, and just relaxed. And every time the thought of the computer came in, I just set it aside, set it
Mhm.
aside. And then I had a little bit to eat. And then I walked in, and it took me about 20 minutes to finish what I had already worked 2 hours to try and do.
Right. Yeah.
And as you were talking about these faces, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
that was the face of intellect
Yeah, yeah,
working,
yeah.
working, trying to make it hard.
Right.
And
Right.
intuition could just easily come in
Yeah.
and say, here's what you do, just follow along. And it was a night and day difference.
Yeah.
And because of the segment we just did, it's like, oh, that's what happened again.
Yeah.
So thank you
Even
very
like,
much.
I mean, you're taking it into more depth, but even that idea, like when we're doing the Dorje, when you're going, okay, focus and then let go, and then focus and then let go. You're doing like a simpler version of that, but you know that is like in my younger days when I was working a lot with my hands or something, and trying to problem solve, same idea, and like, you can't get it. And then you go, just let it go. And you walk away and you have to really let it go. And then you come back and like you said, in 15, 20 minutes, you usually resolve it.
Yeah.
And you're just allowing yourself to access like a different piece of yourself.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's been a long time since I got stuck in that
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
This happens to be my computer that was giving me the
Yeah.
issues. And so it stressed me out. It wasn't
Sure.
my customer's computer
Right.
who I'll make it work. It's no big deal.
Right.
So very interesting day, and this came at a perfect time. Thank you.
Oh, good, good, good. I'm glad. That's a great share.
And go ahead, Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Greg. I'm going back to Barbara's question, and
Hmm?
that was I'm gonna have to go back and listen to your teaching there
Okay.
because that was really interesting. But are there certain oils that you would pick for doing that janitorial work of our arms and legs?
Yeah, like it depends on kind of what you want to do, but like if you want to do like a deeper dive and really work mm, the ego part, aloes will do it, but coming up in next weekend, there's an oil called Resonance. And I mean, it's all about diminishing the ego, like refining and diminishing the ego. And so we kind of talked about it in the next class, the divine self. We talked about resonance a little bit, but it's basically the tendency to be like either influenced by the environment or to not be influenced, but also your influence over the environment. And when we are more in like an intellectual or ego place, we become like little micromanagers. Like I need to make this happen. I need to make that happen. Like you don't let the processes kind of happen, like the creative processes. You don't let intuition like do what it does. And the more that you are able to diminish that, the more that the creative process and intuition, the learning process, the innovative process is allowed to kind of flow. And so, out of everything that I've ever made for that, the resonance has been the strongest. And, there's times where like I even wear like these little malas that help like on my wrists to help flush things out. Of the arms and the legs. When I'm wearing them on my arms, it's just the arms. It doesn't quite do the legs. But it's the same idea. And so things that are cleansing, like even frankincense would do it to a certain extent. Let me look, I'll even tell you what's in the resonance. But like for the class, we're even doing for almost all the oils, they're all going to be a 5 ml oil, 5 ml bottle, like the standard bottle, so that you can even take salt baths with them and the whole bit.
So you're going to be teaching more about this in that
Oh yeah,
class.
we're going deep on this.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
that's the answer I needed.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let me look up the resonance and I'll tell you, like, because there's going to be some other choices you could do for Oils, hair, resonance. Angelica would work. St. John's wort would work. The only thing with St. John's wort is I wouldn't go out in the sun, for a good like part of 12 hours or so, just because it can make your body the skin real sensitive to the sun. And then also clary sage would do it. Clary sage, bay laurel would do it to a certain extent as well. But yeah,
Thank you.
you're so welcome.